In the last class, we have learned that a current carrying rectangular loop rotates in a magnetic field because of the torque acting on it. Today, we will learn a practical application of this principle. It is called a moving coil galvanometer. So, we may straight away start our lesson. Moving coil galvanometer. This is how a moving coil galvanometer looks practically. A galvanometer is used to check the presence of current in a circuit. So if there is a current through the circuit, then there will be a deflection in the galvanometer as shown here. So if there is a current passage through the galvanometer, there is a deflection, and if there is more current, there is more deflection. So this way a galvanometer will detect the presence of current in a circuit. Note that a galvanometer is used only to detect the presence of current. It is never used to measure the amount of current. It is simply used to check the presence of current. So more current means more deflection. So this is how practically a galvanometer looks. So how this moving coil galvanometer works? In the last video lesson, we have learned that if a current carrying rectangular coil is placed in a uniform external field, it will rotate because there will be a torque acting on this coil, and as a result that coil will rotate. So here this represents a coil, and if a current is allowed to pass through this coil, there will be a magnetic field coming around this coil as shown here, and as a result it will act as a bar magnet. So this is how the bar magnet looks. So a current carrying coil will act as a bar magnet. Now an external magnetic field is provided with the north and south poles of two bar magnets, and as a result there will be an interaction between these two, and if this bar magnet is not fixed, this magnet will turn, this magnet will rotate. So since this one is south pole, this bar magnet will turn in the clockwise direction. So we can see that this bar magnet is turning in the clockwise direction. Suppose that there is a needle fixed to this bar magnet, so that in the present condition that needle is showing a 0 reading in the galvanometer. Now when the current is passed through the coil, it rotates. That means this is how the bar magnet is rotating, and as a result it is giving some deflection in the scale. And as long as the current is passing through the coil, this coil will be turning and turning and turning, and finally it may go out of the scale. So how to fix this problem? So we just want to make the needle within the scale. So if the current is allowed to pass through even now this needle will go out of the scale. So the best way is to stop the current passing through the coil when the needle comes to say the division 10. Otherwise this needle will go out of the scale. So if there is no current, now there is no magnetic effect, so the coil stops. But practically this is difficult. So one way to fix this problem is attach a small spring to this coil so that it will give a counter force to the movement of the coil, and finally that spring can stop the movement of the coil. So if we attach a spring like this to this coil, it can control the rotation of the coil. So this is how we are fixing the spring to this coil, so that this spring exert a counter force over this coil, so that by the time the needle reaches the division 10, the counter force is maximum and it can stop the turning of the needle. Now we may learn the physics behind the turning of this coil. So as already told, in an external magnetic field provided by these two bar magnets, we are placing this coil, and suppose this is the coil, and when this coil is placed in this external magnetic field, and if a current I is passed through this coil, it will turn because of the torque acting on it. And this is the area vector. The direction is perpendicular to the magnetic field in this case. So the direction of area vector and direction of external magnetic field are perpendicular to each other. So from the previous class we have learned that torque tau is equal to IAB sin theta. Torque tau is equal to IAB sin theta, and if there are n number of turns, this torque will be n into IAB sin theta. In this case, the angle between this A and B is 90 degree. Now if there is a current flow through this coil, because of this torque, this coil will rotate, and when this coil rotates, we can see that the direction of area vector will no longer be perpendicular to B, or the condition of A perpendicular to B will be breached once the coil rotates. So this is the direction of A, which is exactly perpendicular to B. So this is how the area vector is coming. So if there is a current flow through the coil, now this is the new angle made by the area vector, and we can see that the direction of area vector is not perpendicular to the direction of B, and if it is not perpendicular to B, we can see that theta is not 90 degree, and if theta is not 90 degree, then torque will not be tau max. Torque is maximum, or torque tau is equal to tau max if the angle theta is equal to 90 degree. So how to make the theta 90 degree, or how to produce maximum torque? The torque is made maximum if the angle between B and A is perpendicular to each other, or the angle between B and A is 90 degree. So in order to make this angle 90 degree, we are using a bar magnet like this. This kind of magnet is called horseshoe magnet. It is called horseshoe magnet. A horseshoe magnet will provide a radial field. So what is a radial field? So this is how the radial field looks. It is always directed towards the center of the circle. So from any point the B will be coming perpendicular to the surface, and the field which is emanating perpendicular to the surface will be passing through the center of this circle produced by this horseshoe bar magnet. So if the field is radial, then the area vector will be always perpendicular to this direction of the field. So this way we can see that we can make the angle between B and A always perpendicular to each other. So suppose the initial case where a coil is placed in the holes in the field provided by the horseshoe magnet. Now a current pass through the coil. Now in this picture we can see B and A are perpendicular to each other. So you can see that the direction of B, the B which is passing through the center of this circle, will be perpendicular to the direction of A. So since it is a radial vector, it is always passing through this center. So direction of B and A is 9 degree. Now because of the torque, the coil rotates, and suppose this is the new position of the coil. Now the direction of the area vector has changed, right? The direction of area vector has changed. But still there will be a magnetic field perpendicular to this area vector. So from this point the magnetic field is passing through the center, and so this is the direction of B now, and now this B is perpendicular to this area vector, right? So now also we can see that the angle between A and B is 90 degree. Therefore if we use a horseshoe magnet, it will produce a radial field, and as a result the angle between B and A is 9 degree, or the torque is maximum. So it is for this purpose we are using a horseshoe magnet. So in this horseshoe magnet always theta is 90 degree, or torque is equal to NIAB. Now suppose phi is the angle turned by the coil. So if phi is the angle turned by the coil because of the torque tau, then we can say that phi is proportional to the torque tau, or torque tau is proportional to phi, or we can say that torque tau is equal to a constant into phi, where this C is called couple per unit twist. C is a constant. For any given material the C will be a constant. Now what is torque tau? Torque tau is equal to NIAB, that is equal to phi. Then for a given current I, we can see that for a given current I, number of turns N, A is the area of the coil, B is the strength of the external magnetic field. All these will be a constant for a given current, because while doing the experiment the number of turns of the coil will never change, area of the coil will never change, then the strength of the external field will never change. So for a given current I, we can see that I is equal to C phi divided by NAB, or C by NAB into phi, and from this we can write phi by I is equal to NAB by C, and this quantity is a constant because a number of turns is a constant, A area is a constant, B is a constant, and C is already a constant. So phi by I is a constant, and it is called current sensitivity of the galvanometer. The term phi by I is called current sensitivity of the galvanometer. So we can define this current sensitivity as the deflection produced per unit current. Current sensitivity of a moving coil galvanometer can be defined as the deflection produced in the galvanometer when unit current is passed through it. So it is the deflection phi produced when a unit current I is passed through it. So normally we use SI as the symbol of this current sensitivity. Now for this conductor there will be some resistance. So if R is the resistance of this wire, then we may write phi by IR is equal to NAB divided by CR. Here again, for this conductor the resistance will be a constant. Then previously told C, N, A and B are already constants. So again this will give a constant. And IR is equal to voltage. I into R represent the voltage from Ohm's law. Therefore we can write phi by V is equal to NAB divided by CR. And that is called voltage sensitivity. It is called voltage sensitivity. The symbol is SV, S subscript V. It is called voltage sensitivity. So we can define the voltage sensitivity as the deflection producer in the galvanometer when unit voltage is applied across it. Voltage sensitivity of a galvanometer can be defined as the deflection produced in the galvanometer when unit voltage is applied across it. Now if we increase the number of turns of the galvanometer, the current sensitivity of the galvanometer increases. So if we increase the number of turns, that means if we increase the number of turns n, then numerator value increases and as a result the value of SI, that is the current sensitivity, increases. It is a very logical relation. But the voltage sensitivity of the galvanometer does not increase as the resistance also increases with the number of turns. So for voltage sensitivity, if we increase the number of turns n, then the resistance of the wire also increases correspondingly. That means if n becomes 2n, correspondingly R will become 2R. So these two will be cancelled each other. Again what we are getting is NAB divided by CR. Or suppose we make the number of turns as 5n. So if n is made 5 or 5n, correspondingly n becomes 5n means what? The length of the current increases. Number of turns of the coil increases means the length of the conductor increases. So for n number of turns, if the length of the wire has a resistance R, then when the number of turns becomes 5 times, then the resistance will also becomes 5 times. So this ratio will always be NAB divided by CR, and that is why the resistance or the voltage sensitivity does not change. So as the number of turns increases, the current sensitivity of the galvanometer increases and there is no change in the voltage sensitivity of the galvanometer. Now a galvanometer can be converted into ammeter. So a galvanometer can be converted into ammeter by connecting a very small resistance which is called a shunt resistance. By connecting a very small resistance called shunt resistance parallel to it. So the S represent a shunt resistance and the resistance of this shunt will be as small as possible, because almost all the current will pass through this shunt resistance bypassing the galvanometer. Now if I is the current coming to this point and Ig is the current passing through the galvanometer, the balance current which is I minus Ig. So I minus Ig will pass through the shunt resistance. So what is the voltage across this shunt? Voltage is equal to current into resistance. So the current is I minus Ig. So I minus Ig is the current and S is the resistance of the shunt. So I minus Ig into S is the voltage across the shunt resistance. Similarly, the voltage across the galvanometer is the current through the galvanometer, which is Ig, into resistance of the galvanometer is G. So I minus Ig into S will be equal to Ig into G, because the voltage across shunt resistance and that across the galvanometer will be same. Therefore the value of shunt is equal to Ig G divided by I minus Ig. So this way we can convert a galvanometer into ammeter. Then a galvanometer can be converted into voltmeter also. To convert a galvanometer into voltmeter, we are connecting a high resistance, a very high resistance in series with the galvanometer. To convert a galvanometer into voltmeter, we are connecting a very high resistance in series with the galvanometer. So to ammeter, a small resistance in parallel; to voltmeter, a high resistance in series. Then the total potential across this galvanometer and R will be voltage V is equal to current into resistance, that is Ig into G, plus current into resistance, that is Ig into R. So that can be written as Ig bracket of G plus R. So this is again IgG plus IgR, or the value of the resistance to be connected in series will be R is equal to V by Ig minus G. Conversion of galvanometer into ammeter and into voltmeter is a very practical application of galvanometer. Okay, so with this we are winding up here. Thank you for watching.